For my final major project, I have decided to combine the themes of architecture and the environment, specifically Victorian architecture and the floral aspect of the environment. With these themes, I have brainstormed some ideas and researched 5 artists that paint floral objects and 5 architects that focus on Victorian architecture. I have chosen to revolve my final major project around these themes as firstly, I will be pursuing an architecture course at university. Not only that, it will act as evidence in my architectural portfolio. Environmentally speaking, I chose this as my sub-theme because the environment plays a big role in the design of most architectural work. I began my research by searching the question, what is Victorian architecture? Where I managed to source a variety of answers, including the era, specific design aspects and examples of Victorian architecture. This part of my research also explains in depth why I've selected to do my project around these themes. Continuing on through my research, I then began looking further into the materials architects used for Victorian architecture, to which all the materials are rather basic materials such as brick, glass, oak, concrete and timber framing. Afterwards, I began looking into the characteristics of the architecture, explaining aspects such as the intricate carvings on the walls, the high ceilings, archways, tiled floors and turrets. I decided to research these specific parts of Victorian architecture as I feel they'll be useful for me in the future. Next up, I began comparing architectural styles, Victorian architecture compared to modern architecture. Since the styles are undeniably contrasting, it was enjoyable to compare the two styles to see their differences. After that, I began researching about the environment. I included interesting facts about the topic, whilst also including photographs I took myself to make the research more personal. I also drew some observations and sketches from memory using acrylic pencils to boost my evidence. Now that the research stage is complete, I began looking into 5 artists and 5 architects, including images of their work and why I selected them as one of my many inspirational artists. Floral artists such as Alexander Marshall and Victorian architects such as Alfred Waterhouse are the couple of my many favourites I have researched for my project. After researching 10 artists, I began my experimentation. I experimented with materials, techniques and processes such as flower pressing, crafting foam, air-dry clay, origami and acrylic paint. I maintained a variety in my experimentation so I had more possible material ideas for when I began designing some final ideas. For my primary research stage of my project, I split my research between architectural research, where I visited the town to photograph the Victorian architecture, and environmental research, where I visited places such as Rosemore Gardens and Whistling Pound Reservoir to photograph the environment. Not only that, I also drew some observations as further evidence of my research. Finally, I began designing ideas for my final piece. I made 3 designs, all of which use similar materials but have different designs. I made each one a mind map, a description, a meaning, and some rough sketches with a rough colour palette. In the end, I chose design 1 simply because I liked the meaning behind it and the overall appearance. Once I clarified which idea I wanted to pursue, I began evaluating the materials and tools I would need. Not only that, I also looked at the health and safety precautions to avoid any issues and injuries. Throughout this project, I have been making various checklists to keep track of everything I must complete, online and in my book. Not only that, but I have also kept a diary at home to note down what I've completed each day, which I found extremely useful and will use in any future projects.